All right, hey guys, here we are to start the new week. It is September 15th. Can you believe it? Part of me is like, hey, it's flew by. Other parts like, let's get there already. Let's get to some fall because it's back to warm temperatures. So Alabama weather headlines here: a prolonged dry period. That'll be for much of the state, outside of a few isolated showers. Warm afternoons, cool nights. Again, the surface is very dry. Dew points are relatively low, and that will yield some pretty decent temperature swings from day to night. And we'll likely have our next Atlantic storm named here in a very short period of time. Nationally speaking, really the only feature to point out, you got an Alberta clipper. That's a frontal boundary moving right along the Canadian border. Out ahead of it, some thunderstorms across Missouri, the Ozarks, and then this pesky little low just off the Carolina coastline that's really not expected to do much except reinforce a northeasterly or easterly flow for us here in Alabama. There's a look at the composite over the southeast. Again, isolated showers in the Appalachians, probably some orographic lift there with the mountains, but otherwise, very quiet here. Quiet start to the week. Just look at the visible satellite. If you've been outside, you've probably seen some of those fair weather cumulus clouds. That's about it. You can see the motion based off these clouds moving from northeast to southwest. So not a typical motion for us, but when in this pattern with a ridge to the west and a low to the east, that is exactly what happens. Temperatures here, a little after 3 o'clock. We have upper 80s, low 90s in most locations. Demopolis, the warm spot at 94. As we look ahead to our lows tonight, a big part of what determines our low temperature is our dew points. If your dew points are lower, there's less water in the air. Well, water holds heat. If we don't have water, not as much heat is retained at night. So temperatures are going to fall more readily with dew points in the 50s as opposed to 60s and certainly those 70s. So with that in mind, I think we dip into the 60s everywhere. Models have been a little bit off on some of the lows. I look at the last several days. Lows have been 65 or cooler in most of central Alabama, even cooler than that, some 50s in northern Alabama. So again, we'll be in the 60s, should be pleasant out the door. And then we're back in the 90s. Tuesday's high, probably one of the warmest of the week. And again, we'll see a range, a few spots in the 80s, others in the 90s. And then as we head towards Wednesday, same deal, partly cloudy. Temperatures likely in the lower 90s, almost statewide. So let's go to the big picture here. We don't really have a concrete rain threat at all, but we're going to have a few opportunities here to see some isolated showers. This is on Wednesday, and you see the spotty rain there over Alabama. Again, a couple models picking up on this. This is really the only one. It's basically a ripple of upper level energy with just enough moisture to maybe give us some showers Wednesday morning. Otherwise, just additional cloud cover. And then as we go to Wednesday afternoon, you can see that feature low that's over the mid-Atlantic region. And as that spins in place, it's reinforcing that northeasterly flow, and that will keep kind of an offshore breeze limiting our moisture levels once again. That'll be our best potential for rain there Wednesday afternoon. On to Thursday, you start to see a little bit of an advancement of a system in the middle of the country, the Central Plains, Upper Great Plains. And out ahead of it, we might be able to generate a few showers on Friday evening. Again, the better chance of rain is going to be near the Mississippi Delta. And a lot of us, again, will go untouched with respect to rainfall. Saturday after Wednesday is going to be our next highest rain potential. Isolated showers, that same disturbance I just showed you, assuming things can refire on Saturday afternoon. But again, spotty showers here and there. And this is our look at our average rain totals over the next 7 days. What you're seeing in the light green there is about a tenth of an inch, if not less, basically trace amounts, and then up to about a tenth or quarter of an inch in those darker greens. But suffice it to say, there will be folks that go the next 10 days without a drop of rain. It is Alabama's dry season. We tend to average in many spots about 5 to 6 inches combined for the 2 months. So it's just something to keep an eye on with respect to drought conditions that could, over time, get worse if we continue this dry period. All right, on to the tropics. This is a look at, again, just a little after 3 o'clock. NHC giving us a 90% chance of develop. This is going to develop. It's just a matter of when. So, and the question beyond that is where does it go? So this is Invest 92. And you can see, decent area of low pressure there, probably the best signature we've had in a couple weeks. And the big question is, where is this going to go? There's some interesting wind fields out here. So I'm going to go to the upper air pattern here. What this is looking at is our winds at about 500 millibars. So, 17, 20, 21,000 feet, somewhere in that range. And what these winds are going to show is different features in place. So you've got your low, there's the invest. This is Tuesday afternoon. And I went ahead and threw the spaghetti plots on there just to show what the models are saying. What's interesting is we're going to have basically a broad area of high pressure where you're seeing those oranges. Those are higher atmospheric heights, and there's upper level highs with that. Well, tropical systems don't like that. So you see right where this is headed late in the week is right towards these two. And again, it's one broad feature, but you can kind of depict two areas of high pressure. And with this, there's going to be a decent amount of wind shear. You look at into the weekend, and you've got a high, an upper high that's just to the east of the Bahamas. You've got another upper high, the stronger of the two features, right out in the central Atlantic, and this is going to kind of thread the needle in between. And there's just with features like that, there's a lot of wind shear, and I don't expect this to really strengthen and intensify. We'll have to wait and see. But when I see upper winds like that, it tends to make me think, all right, regardless of sea surface temperatures, it's probably isn't doing a whole lot. So this will end up becoming Gabrielle, and this would really only get us through the first column of names. Remember, a lot of the outlooks here called for 15, 16, 17 named storms, 6 to 9 hurricanes, and 3 to 5 major. So depending on what you looked at. But hey, I'd be glad if we don't get any further than Gabrielle. We are still at the peak of hurricane or tropical season for the Atlantic. This is our map I like to show to give us reference as to where we are. And there we are, just past the peak. Although you can consider September 10th to 20th. This is the peak of the season. And really, as far as ranges go, October 1st is when we start to see a big drop off. And so we're still right in the thick of things here. But for the time being, we are really looking quite quiet here across Alabama and the tropics. So that's our forecast discussion for this Monday. Hope you have a great start to the week. See you next time.